Hey, 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 everybody. Welcome, welcome. We are about to go live up in Palm Coast Harbor with Paul Renner. He is streaming on his X platform. He's going to be streaming on his Facebook. I just got back into town. I was with him on Thursday at the Villages. That was an incredible. We had a huge packed house up there at the City Fire grill up there. Fantastic. Paul rocked it. It was a great crowd. A lot of veterans there, Bikers for Trump there, a lot of great people in the Villages. And I'm Ann Vandersteel. It's great to be with you on Saturday. We are coming down to the wire. Tuesday is the big election. And we know that we've got a lot on the line here, a lot at stake in Florida, a lot at stake in Florida, as a matter of fact. I just want to make sure I'm monitoring this all together. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything live. Yeah, there we go. Can you guys, I'm just going to have this running on parallel with me, so that we can kind of keep monitoring of the situation here until Paul steps up. But anyway, we've got a lot on the line here in Florida. The establishment, again, is at it. They are doing everything they can. Florida is really the last line in the sand for freedom. We saw what happened in Texas. We saw the election go the way it did in Texas. You had a governor reelected. They don't have term limits in Texas the way they do here in Florida. And you had a governor reelected who allowed mass weaponized illegal migration across his border. He could have stopped it. The Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3 of our Constitution is clear. Governor Abbott could have stopped that invasion in Texas, but, he allowed what went down to go down. And really, I think it was disgrace. And he defaced his own Texas National Guard. Frankly, I feel terrible for the Texas National Guard because they put up with a governor like that. And, under Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, a state has the right to repel that foreign invasion. And I can tell you right now, Paul Renner will absolutely repel a foreign invasion. He's taken a hard look at the radical Muslims that are setting up forward operating bases under the name of mosques here in Florida. We have 500,000 of them. He's absolutely going to eliminate property tax. If your house is anywhere from $1 million or less in tax assessed value, you won't pay property tax. He's going to give you a homestead exemption up to $1 million. Right now, Floridians at homestead have a $50,000 exemption. So if your house is 200,000, 500,000, or $1 million, you get 50 grand off that assessed value. He's going to give you $1 million. So you won't be paying property taxes. 90% of Floridians won't do it, which is huge. That's a huge, huge savings when you think about it. He's talking about affordability for your property homeowners insurance. That's big, really, really big. He's also talking about AI Bill of Rights. He's talking about a full moratorium on any expansion of these hyperscale data centers in Florida. And if you talk to the experts like Tammy Clark or Kristen Megan Kelly, who actually have done a couple of events with Paul, they will tell you that our aquifers are under massive stress already just from the massive development. And you put that up against Byron Donalds that wants to bring 7 million more people into the state. He wants to build out our entire peninsula and make us the AI hyperscale data center quarter in the country. He wants us to be the leaders in this. Well, at the end of the day, it isn't about your Chat GPT running faster or your Claude or your Grok. It's all about financial freedom. And Catherine Austin Fitz, who works with Paul, is consulting with Paul Renner about the financial system and our sovereignty here in Florida. She'll tell you that this is all about financial, sovereignty being fully eroded. So anyhow, let's cut on over and see what they're saying here. I'm going to get them up on the screen. Hopefully we're going to have some sound from them. Let me just check it out. Let me get the noise up and let's see if anybody's talking.
Hello and good morning. My name is Erica Picard. I am a lifelong Pinellas County resident, and I have been raising 3 beautiful children, one sitting here with my husband, Mike. I've also been serving on local boards, my kids' schools boards, PAC, all of those things, SAC, all the acronyms. And then M&Ms too, yes.
That's his favorite abbreviation.
Yeah. And then also an appointment by County Commissioner Nowicki for the Palm Harbor Community Services Agency. So I've had the honor to get to serve the area. I also, if you've noticed that 2 years ago, I ran for the Pinellas County School Board. And I only bring that up. Have a lot of strong support at the governor's desk. and that was also helped by Speaker Renner. And I just want to say thank you so much for that. I'm going to introduce now my calendar of this. Speaker Renner was the Speaker of the House, Florida House of Representatives during the 2022-24 term. He is a 23-year U.S. Navy veteran. Woo-hoo! Great. Former prosecutor and business attorney. He is now running for governor of Florida with a Florida First campaign centered on lowering costs, which we all can approve, strengthening public safety, all can approve, and defending freedom. So I would like to, just for a quick minute, I'm just going to pray over your family
please.
as you guys continue on the campaign.
Please.
Session. Dear God, I just thank you so much for this day. I thank you so much for the people that are in here. I pray that you speak through. Thank you so much for his family that has given him so much support over the years. And I ask that you continue to lead him and guide him in each and every day of his life. Whether he wins or loses, God, we know that you have a plan for him and his family. And we just thank you so much for going ahead of us on that. In your name I pray.
Amen.
Amen.
All right. Well, it's great to be with you guys. Let's see if this thing's on. How about now? There we go. And some days the kids are really quiet, and some days we need to call the bouncer, and I think we're gonna have to call the bouncer. So before I get started, I want to invite my family up so you guys can meet them. Come on up. You get to meet everybody. You can be loud now. And then maybe Samantha, you can take William. Come on up, Abby. Come on up, Abby. This is my wife, Adriana. My daughter, Abby, who's being a little shy. She's going to run into Samantha. She's 6. And my son, William, who's 4. Wait, William. Say hi to everybody. Hi, William. And then they may leave us. But anyway, they got the chance to be on the campaign trail a little bit over the summer. And then, of course, school started this week, and now we're back at it. But Adriana picked him up on Friday, came down to Tampa so we could be here together for this town hall, and may link up again on Sunday for some events before they go back to school Monday morning. So anyway, I know everybody that's a parent's been busy getting their kids back, the supplies and the backpacks and everything else. And so it's very, very important that we have top quality education here in Florida as well. So as they make their way out, Abby, you want to stay? You want to stay, baby? Watch. Okay. You want to go with mommy? Okay, bye-bye. All right. Well, it's great to be with you. Just let me kind of kick it off with a shortened version of the speech, because this is a town hall, so I really want to get to a lot of questions. We have people online who are standing by with questions as well, and I appreciate the great turnout today here in Pinellas County to learn. A lot of people are undecided, and so I hope to move you off of undecided for those that haven't already voted or planning to vote for us. And it really starts with 2 why questions. And before I get to those, let me talk about America's 250th, because I think it's important to kind of take a step back as we just prayed for our state, is that most countries, most republics don't make it 250 years. And we frankly should have made it 6 months. I saw a movie with my wife called The Great Awakening, which depicts Benjamin Franklin and George Whitefield. Whitefield was an evangelist. We all know Franklin. And he was part of that Great Awakening that preceded the Revolutionary War. And many historians, including myself, believe that really gave the colonists a belief that our rights come from God, not from government. It also gave them the courage in the Declaration of Independence to offer their lives, their fortunes, their sacred honor to take on the most powerful military in the world, in world history, really. We literally had no chance to win that war, but we did. And so in that movie, he refers during the Constitutional Convention of 1787 to Washington's chair. He was the presiding officer that had a half of the sun carved on the back of it. And he said, during the back and forth, Franklin said, I was not sure whether our sun was rising or setting on the new nation. But now that we've reached agreement, I believe it's a rising sun. So the question for every patriot in this room, every patriot watching, is what about the next 250 years? Is America's sun rising or setting? And before I get started talking about this governor's race, I'll offer 3 things that are core to who I am and core to what I think We've been for 250 years, and it starts with faith as a Christian. And why is that important? Whatever your faith is because it gives us a capital T truth. We can argue over what the truth is. We shouldn't argue over whether there is one. And unfortunately, the left now can be characterized by the fact that they have rejected any truth at all, which is why simply they can't tell you what a woman is because they have no truth. And so we have to claim that capital T truth through faith. Number two, as a father of young children, as strong families have built this country. They are the original source of self-government. We have to have strong families because without them, you can't build enough strong government to manage the chaos that results. Don't know me and they're watching. Government. We have to have strong. So every child at every level will have a world-class education, no matter where you choose to get educated. We stood up for life by passing the Heartbeat Protection Act. We ended transgender surgeries on minors, boys and girls bathrooms, some of the crazy books, all these things that were happening that the left was pushing. We passed permitless carry. We ended DEI in our universities and pushed back against ESG. We protected our police officers through the HALO Act, and on it goes. Two quick things, though, that are important, because you also want a governor who will stand up to special interest, right? Too many politicians fight right alongside them because they're the ones that butter their bread and get them elected to the next higher office. And in this election, you have one candidate who's got more than half of his money from out-of-state special interests. I am not. And I'll just give you two examples. Insurance. We fought the billboard lawyers to lower litigation abuse. We fought the insurance companies to make sure they were accountable to people and processing claims more quickly. You have to have somebody who's willing to stand up to them, and number two, who can beat them. And we won that fight, as well as in year 2 against big tech, to protect young children from online harm, online pornography, addictive social media platforms. And you would think that those companies, big tech, Meta and all those, would say, we'll make it just more child friendly for you and let those kids be on the platforms. Because we didn't say good content or bad content, but if you're using all those addictive features that they have to keep kids online 6-7 hours a day, a young child should not be on that platform because it's wrecking them psychologically. It's a fact. So instead, they lobbied up. Every lobbyist in Tallahassee was trying to beat me in this big priority we had to protect kids from those 2 threats. We beat them. So you want a governor who's willing to stand up to them and has got a proven record of beating them. And then you want a governor with vision. We did all that big policy sweep in 2 years because I love winning. I love winning. I'll never get tired of winning, as President Trump says. Winning for the conservative cause and for all Floridians. We did a lot of bipartisan things to take care of the Florida Wildlife Corridor, protect our natural resources, these types of things. And so looking forward, we have our contract with Florida. I think you have a copy of it. I've seen a couple copies floating around, which is a first 100 days agenda to get after some of the pressing issues, which brings us to the future in our question time. We have to make sure we're making Florida more affordable again. We have become a victim of our own success because we have people flooding into this state, just like they're flooding from other countries that have failed. People are fleeing failed states in America to come to Florida. And if I could, I would love to build a wall at the Alabama-Georgia line and make New York and California pay for it. But we can't do that. But in any case, what we can do is eliminate homestead property taxes for Florida residents. Those who call Florida home, we've got the only plan to do that. Other people have platitudes and they say, we're going to get rid of property taxes. Show me how. Where's your plan? And we do it in a way that solves 2 problems that, in my mind, that exist with the current ballot measure, which will help people that need it. But it doesn't go far enough to totally eliminate those taxes, which our plan does, up to $1 million of assessed value. But it also has a combination of savings and replacement taxes to pay for police, fire, schools, infrastructure. So it's very balanced by shifting that burden off of us who make Florida home to those who vacation here, those who speculate here, and those who are moving in here. And I think that's the way to do it. And so we have a very smart plan for that. To lower insurance rates by 10 to 20%, to lower electric rates, and we have specific measures that will work to lower property insurance further because it's still way too high, and also to get after electric rates that we have pretty high electric rates as well. We can bring those down. That's a fight with special interest. To keep Florida safe, that means going after public corruption. That means going after human trafficking. That means, if you're an office holder and you're going up to Washington, D.C. and making a ton of money off of things that only you know, you shouldn't get a job promotion. You should be recalled, correct? We're going to have permanent Doge. So I like what the CFO is doing, but we're going to do that, right? We're going to do that at the state level, at the local level, at the university, special district. Everybody's got to be Doge to save that money and put it back in our pockets, which is part of our property tax proposal. And we will do that permanently. Why? Because you pick weeds and 2 weeks later you go outside and what do you see? More weeds. So we have to make sure that Doge effort is a permanent one, and we will hold people accountable that are engaged in waste, fraud, and abuse. And look, on the death penalty, people have different viewpoints, but these are the worst of the worst. Cop killers, people who rape and kill children, that in Florida on death row an average of over 30 years. And so we're going to give them a 3-year period for appeals. That's it. We're not going to let families grow old and die before they ever see justice. We'll keep Florida free on our health freedom. We're going to keep Surgeon General Latipo and make sure we don't give into the groupthink that we saw during COVID, the greatest infringement of civil liberties in American history. And we have to make sure we're giving parental rights with respect to what goes in our kids' bodies and mental health counseling and all of this stuff. Know what's in our food. I want to bring back a governor's physical fitness test. They got rid of the presidential physical fitness test. We're going to bring that back to make sure our kids have a play-based childhood and not a digital-based childhood that's wrecking them. In our environment, we were big for the Florida Wildlife Corridor, spent more than any time before or since to lock up and preserve some of wild Florida. And we will make sure to protect our air, our land, our water, and leave it better than we found it. Listen, the first environmentalist was not a purple-haired Antifa activist. It was someone called a farmer, because they understand you've got to steward the land for the land to steward back, to take care of you. And so we're going to take care of our environment. We did that when I was speaker, our Everglades, our streams, our rivers, and make sure you can catch a fish and safely eat that fish that you catch. And finally, on the contract, we're going to keep Florida free. That means election integrity. That means an AI Bill of Rights. I called for a special session both for that and the Medical Freedom Act just this week, and I'm hopeful that the House will now correct their mistakes this year and get something done for Floridians before it's too late this November. We're also going to push back against the red and green threat. And so, I mean, I'm talking about China. China, we passed a law to make sure they were not buying our land near military bases or farmland. And we will not allow professors and students in our schools, because from a communist system, they're here to undermine our country. And the same thing, yes, sir, thank you. And so the same thing has to be said about Islam. And this is what I mean. I've spent my whole life, and they said, fight them abroad so we don't have to fight them here at home. And whatever percentage that represents, we see what is happening in Europe. We have to make sure that we're not passing along education dollars to teach Sharia law, independent slaughterhouses, or these enclaves that exist in Europe that are very, very dangerous. And finally, number 4, you have to have a governor who's running to the fight, not waiting for the fight to come to them. Erica mentioned school board races. I joined the governor. I'm the only candidate that joined the governor in 22 and 24 to make sure we had common sense conservatives in those positions and got rid of the indoctrination so we can teach reading, math, science, civics, make a high school diploma matter again. It's not a partisan thing. We need high quality core educational basics so that a high school diploma is something that you can take and get a decent job. And I'll also point you to Amendments 3 and 4. I traveled the state with the governor. I wrote op-eds. I contributed in 24 alone, when Erica was running, over $2 million to stop Amendment 4, to help with school board races, because that's what leaders are supposed to do. Most of these politicians kept the money in their pocket to run for their next highest office. And so you want somebody, if they tell you, oh, we'll be there to fight them when it's pot or something you care about even more, where were they 18 months ago? And so you need somebody who's got a proven record. You don't have to have concerns and doubts with me. I am the closest thing you'll find to the great governor we have today. And he said as much just a week ago when he said, look, I'm not going to get into endorsements, but he's got a vote too. And he indicated in a press conference having nothing to do with his governor's race, and broke in and said Paul Renner would actually make a really good governor. So I think we know where he's headed. So with that, let's get some questions fired off. I think we've got plenty of time to have some questions. We're going to start here in the room and we'll go online. Yes, ma'am.
I came in here sort of feeling that I was going to vote for Jay Collins. And the reason why was because he's been working with DeSantis for the past year as his vice president, as a lieutenant governor. And I assumed that he would be the most likely that would continue DeSantis's policies and stuff. I want you to know I don't know anything about politics. I'm not trying to attack or anything like that. I'm really curious because I want to know, I want to vote for the right person, and I have a lot of influence. So you're kind of convincing me because you're up here telling me exactly what you're going to do for us, and it all sounds spot on. I also want to have clean food. I want to eat food that my body knows how to eat. None of this genetically modified.
Exactly.
So I'm
Yeah.
huge about that. But the other thing was I was told that Jay Collins, when he was a senator for 3 years, he passed 55 bills, which was more than anybody ever just not even heard of. And also during Afghanistan, he went and rescued some people that the government had left behind. So that tells me a lot about his character. Got his leg blown off, went back into the service. So his character is really important, but also the fact that he's been working right beside DeSantis and he's going to continue. I love our state.
Yeah. Well, I think I'd start with the positives, and I would ask, the candidates, if they'd had leadership. Let me repeat the question. Okay, you're asking why me, not Jay Collins, is essentially the summary of your question. Yeah, and so I'll start with Health Freedom. Stand for Health Freedom and other health freedom groups have endorsed me. I believe there's not any question in this race who the health freedom candidate is. What I don't want to see is people say, oh, that was a COVID thing. We want to make sure that Republicans, when they run, they have to stand up for what's in our food, transparency and parental rights and all these things that health freedom represents. And I was the only one that was there during the COVID era, fighting alongside the governor to stop that onslaught from people having vaccine passports and these crazy things getting fired by not having a shot that came out yesterday because they had concerns about it, right? And that should be your choice. So there's that. But I would just ask, what have those folks led? And so if they were leading something, they would tell you what they've led, what kind of results. And in the 55, I'll tell you, as speaker, we pass a couple hundred bills a year, so it's quality over quantity, frankly. And that first session that I was leading the Florida House was called the Session of the Century by the leading think tank there in Tallahassee. Jay partnered with us on permitless carry and the China bill. But the other bills, I don't know what those were, but there's bills like universal school choice and there's bills like a road naming. I don't know what those 55 represented, but it's not accurate. The Senate doesn't have a limit on how many bills they can file, and he did not finish that first year. What I'll say, and I kind of walked you through the positives, and I don't want to get too much into the negatives, other than to say this, because I was thinking about this. Every one of the candidates, frankly, is hiding something about their background. There's no hidden trap doors if I'm your nominee. David Jolly has got nothing on me. And one of frankly one of the things that soured me about and I'm just going to be honest about Jay is Jay has known for quite some time that he and the governor have had a bit of a parting of ways, and he continues to tell people today that he's been endorsed by the governor. That is flatly untrue, and the governor has not and will not endorse him. Now he's chosen not to endorse, and I think the governor's taken the high road here because he did pick him for his lieutenant governor, but since that time a year ago, I think it speaks volumes that he's not endorsing. Because I think a year ago, he was ready to do that. And you make observations. There's just been stuff on social media, and I don't want to get into it. I want to take your questions, but I appreciate Jay's sacrifice. There's no question he's shown courage. He and I were close allies when I was speaker in the Senate, but there's some things in temperament and frankly, integrity, from my opinion, that are really concerning to me that I've seen over the last year. And look, everybody gets desperate to try to win a race and what they'll be willing to say. And I've never claimed an endorsement from the governor. I don't claim it today, other than what he said last week was a pretty clear signal about where he's going to vote, even though he's not going to get involved in endorsements. But I think the fact that he wasn't endorsed speaks all you need to know. Well, it's both. It's business law. So I've represented businesses for 20 plus years, but I was a prosecutor out of law school, and so and like I said, I've started my own business, so I've got some private sector experience that these other guys just don't have. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, I have that. So I hung a shingle and, fixed my own font size and what I, had to, go to the mailbox and hope there was a check there and, been my own bottle washer and all those things in a small company. And I've been a partner in a larger, firm. And so it's small business, and we hire and fire and deal with regulations and taxes and government headaches and all those things. Those other guys do not have that experience. They really don't. And I know, one claims to be a businessman, but again, they're hiding. In the case of Fishback, he's got a $1.5 million judgment against him. I don't know why people haven't talked about that, but it's not been a successful record. And so if people I would just tell you this, spend 2 or 3 minutes of research or more. If you research, I'm confident the more you research, the more you're going to want me as your next governor. And yes, ma'am.
I don't know about anyone else in this room, but I have a real problem with the flock camera thing going on and the data center stuff. Just from a surveillance perspective, we already have a crowded landscape out there with cameras everywhere, in stores, out of stores, at the traffic lights. And I'm all for supporting law enforcement, but we've already seen abuses of the whole flock camera routine.
Yeah.
And I think we you're adequately supplied with what we need to track down folks, the stolen cars and things like that. I just see a tremendous breach of private information coming. And data centers, I mean, that's just to enrich companies that want to make money off of, you know, knowing the size of my underwear or, you know, something ridiculous. They don't need to know my business.
Right.
So what is your plan for combating some of this overreach?
And give me your name again.
I'm Gail Bergman.
Gail.
Pasco County.
Gail, thank you for reminding me of two glaring omissions in my opening remarks because it's part of our contract. Very simply, I'm a no on both. I'm a hard no on the data centers, and I'll explain. And I'm a hard no on the flock cameras as well, or the surveillance state, period, full stop. And here's why. Okay, let's say you're someone who says we got to beat China, we got to have these data centers, we're in a race, so blah, blah. But the reality is not in Florida because the reason is we're a fast growing state. We're tapped out with our electric grid, all these people moving in. We saw Duke Power come out and say, I don't know if you guys remember that, don't use your electricity from 5 to 10 a.m. when it was 20 degrees outside. Well, what am I supposed to do with my kids? You know, and I got to have the heat on. So our grid is already in that place. And so to add on what is the equivalent of 700,000 to 800,000 people in electricity demand on one data center. And then it will damage our aquifer as well because they need a lot of water for cooling. And so that's a compelling reason to say, even if you say yes to data centers for the country, no to Florida, let them go somewhere like these states, these blue states that are emptying out, that have more grid capacity, that have excess water, right? I mean, they're falling apart. And I'm different here from, and I'll just, you know, it's not negative, but just clear contrast between Byron Donalds just 2 days ago or 3 days ago. He said there will be no bans. We're going to go forward. We have enough grid space, I think he said, for 4 or 5 data centers. He is your data center governor. He's been funded over $5 million and counting by the people who want to bring them here. So there's that. Ma'am, you asked me about Jay Collins' policy difference. He says he wants it to be local control, but here's the problem. You need to do this at the state level because the aquifer doesn't have county boundaries. The grid doesn't have county boundaries. And so you can have a county that says we want a moratorium, and the adjoining county says we want 3 data centers, and that county with a moratorium is going to suffer regardless because this is a regional statewide deal. And on flock cameras, here's the deal. So you mentioned you want to support law enforcement. I do too. I've been endorsed by the Fraternal Order of Police, 25,000 strong. I have a sterling record on law enforcement. And as a former prosecutor, I think it's clear we're going to get after bad guys. And so it's one thing if you have a camera and you say someone's been kidnapped and we're going to do a 5-mile radius and turn on those cameras for a period of time to find the bad guy in his car, if he's traveling by car, then a pattern of life 24/7 of everybody. We have over 7,000 of these cameras, and we just had a arrest of a police officer who followed his estranged wife for a flock camera 717 times. And so the problem is now that you have AI, you have some private companies holding that data that could sell or share your data when you leave your house, when you come back to your house. This could very easily put us in a place where communist China is. And I've been very clear in the debate. If you go back to see that debate on Patrick Bet-David, you can Google it on YouTube, that I will stand in front of a moving bullet train to stop a surveillance state, whether it's flock cameras, whether it's control of digital currency, whatever it is. We are not going to let technology destroy humanity. Human beings are going to be controlled by technology when I'm governor, period.
I have a question that's not on the
Radar.
radar,
Yeah.
right? There's been a lot of abuse of private equity and vertical integration of the healthcare industry. And I, as a woman, sought to get a gynecologist in a private office, and they all turned out to be under women's health care.
Yep.
And so I went in there, and because I would not sign the arbitration the right to a jury trial, and I'm not planning on a lawsuit, and I know there's litigation abuse, but I know malpractices are very tough to bring anyway. And I follow Robert Barnes and with the 1776 Law Center, and we do a lot of pro bono. There is an erosion to right to a jury trial.
Yep. So the question was about the erosion of the right to a jury trial and private equity. So let me address both. I agree with you on jury trial. I'm on different sides depending. Like I'm not a big fan of sovereign immunity. If the FedEx truck hurts your loved one, you get to sue. If the state does it, the government is negligent, you don't have much remedy. So I've been pro tort reform. I've got a reputation for that, but I'm also one that wants to see those caps go way up, because I think if the government's negligent, you should have a right to sue them. And with respect to a jury trial, right, that's another area where I'm with the plaintiff's lawyers to say, I've just seen too many times where arbitration can be an inside job. I would rather just close my eyes and pick 6 of you or 12 of you out of this audience to judge me on my liberty, on my, judgment in a civil case, than have a judge or an arbitration panel make that decision. So I'm opposed to what you're talking about, where you get this collusion, it's mandatory arbitration. I do fundamentally support the right to jury. The no choice, right. Now on private equity, it's not off the path question, in my opinion. I'm glad you raised it. I was in Oldsmar. This was when we did our affordability tour with a family plumbing company that's been, called repeatedly about selling to private equity. And they showed me a constellation of companies that are their competitors, owned by the same private equity company. So we know, everybody in this room, look, I'm a free market economic freedom guy. That's not real capitalism. That's starting to look like collusion and crony capitalism. And so I'm very concerned about private equity writ large, gobbling up small businesses that are the lifeblood of job creation, who treat their employees way better, because some of those people are coming over to work for him because they're treated like widgets. And so I am very concerned about how we've created this honeypot for private equity, where they buy a company, a family business, they scavenge it like roadkill on the side of the road, without any regard for the people who've given their entire careers to serve that company. And I don't like it. And that doesn't sound like a conservative. Maybe I'm a populist on that. I don't know. But I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like the direction it's going. I think it is really wrecking our country.
Yeah, I went through a lot of the general orthodontist got bought out by private equity.
Yep.
And
Everywhere.
dentists got bought out by private equity. And it's just happening everywhere.
It destroys competition fundamentally. It destroys your choice fundamentally. And the whole system is based on, you get to choose. And if I don't, if you don't get good goods or services, or the right price, or friendly customer, anything, you get the value you're expecting, or you go to a competitor. If that competitor and every other competitor in your market is owned by the same company or by private, you're not going to get that. It destroys capitalism.
They all have a big central office with personal appointments set up, and you only have that individual in the private practice who knows you, setting up your appointments, and it's just a mess.
Yes, ma'am. I agree. I agree with you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi,
And do we want to take some online too, or just keep going?
we'll keep just going
Okay.
till I'm on.
Yeah. You showed up. You're here. So we're giving you guys preference.
Okay, my 2 biggest concerns overall globally are the Red-Green Alliance and the immigration. Mass deportations would be ideal, but it's hard to run on that platform. Also, I appreciate, one of the things I liked about you is you're not a flamethrower. As much as I like our president, it's nice to have somebody that can present an argument and not be so confident. Some of the people that are running against you are more, in your face. And I think I like somebody with more measured delivery. But one of the things regarding these data energy is, there was a guy, Dave Walsh, who's now with the administration, that was talking about a huge solar farm in the middle of the state.
Yep.
That was going to take a lot of our, put a lot of our energy policy into sustainable, what are they called? Is it called sustainable, the wind and solar?
Yeah. Kind of the Green New Scam, all the incentives.
So
Yep.
I'm more for that base payload kind of
Yes.
stuff. So, do you know what's happening with that?
Yeah. And I know Dave Walsh, and I talk to smart people like David Walsh. I don't know if he wants me to say publicly I've talked to him or not, but I talk to people and consult with people for my energy policy, and he's spot on right. Everything he's telling you is right. And the problem, and part of that energy, I mentioned reducing electric rates, is right now utilities get a guaranteed profit, not based on whether you do well, based on how much they spend. So what's the incentive? Spend more, make more. Guaranteed profit, because they're regulated by the government, heavily regulated. And so the problem is, I want 3 things when I'm governor: codified, the cheapest electric rates per kilowatt hour delivered to your doorstep. And that is not those solar fields. It's coal, nuclear, natural gas, nuclear. It's all these other things. You talk about the base load. Pardon?
Is that a good deal, that big solar farm that he's talking about that he was always preaching against?
Well, they have the right to build those. I mean, they're building those farms, and what they're doing though is they also are charging you. We pay the bill for the purchase of this ag land that is driving up the price of housing and land prices as well. And so that's a problem. And then they get to be landowners and get the profit, the uplift of that down the road. So it's a big sweetheart deal for them. And I want to change those incentives so that they do well when your electric bills go down. And then the other thing is, can't depend on China. 90% of the solar market comes from where? China. And the batteries to store that power when the sun goes down, China. And so also reliability, as you said, base load. She's referring to the fact that fossil fuels and nuclear, it runs 24/7 on human demand. Whenever you need it, you just have to, hit the button and it'll provide whatever you need. We are putting our grid, and Dave Walsh would tell you this, already is under stress and under the potential of brownouts and blackouts. Now add data centers, horrible idea. And then you asked about immigration too. But you had a follow up?
So basically, what I hear you say is going through. There's a fait accompli.
Well, it's been happening since 2019. Most new power generation has been all in with these solar fields. I don't call them farms because they're not farming anything really, but they're buying up all that farmland. And FP&L is up 40% since 2020. Duke's up 40%. TECO's up 80% since 2020. FP&L put in for the largest rate increase in U.S. history. Meanwhile, Georgia, that's extending the life of their coal, natural gas, nuclear plants, has a 3-year rate freeze. So we need to be more like Georgia and be smart about this. And let me answer her question. She also asked a question about immigration, also an affordability issue, because it's supply and demand. You got a bunch of people moving in from New York. That creates pressure on prices. People that don't belong here, that are here illegally, pressure on prices, housing prices, all prices. And so we have to get after that. Also, free education, free healthcare, all these things that are burdens on the taxpayers. So I will just tell you, I think the governor's done a marvelous job in this area. We'll continue down the path of being a full partner with the federal government. It's primarily their responsibility, but we have a role. And you see the results of what the governor's done is we have the highest, I think the highest percentage by far of progress in terms of deportations of people that are not supposed to be here. Let me get the gentleman that had his hand, and I'm going to come to you if I could. Yes, sir. Okay, there you go. There's a gentleman. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. What's your name?
Kathy Bragg.
Kathy, okay.
Regarding overbuilding in the state and saving some of our farmland and our resources, about 15 or 20 years ago, I heard that all of the land on which to build in Pinellas County was taken. But everywhere you look, there's thousands of apartments going up and everywhere. And I know it's happening in every county. It's not just this county. How does that happen? I mean, like they plant some trees somewhere else and they tear up the wetlands. I mean, it's just crazy. And what can we do to curb it?
So let me give you my perspective and my Pinellas County perspective. And I should have mentioned this at the beginning, but my roots trace back to Pinellas County. My grandfather owned the Renner Dairy in Pinellas Park. And you may, back in the 40s and 50s. And if you go to Pinellas Park today, you will see no dairies. I don't know what it is now. And my cousin is here and her husband, my 2 cousins. And so, but our history traces back to that farm, that dairy in Pinellas County. And for those familiar with the book A Land Remembered, I do not want Florida on my watch to become a land forgotten. I will not be the governor that we look back and say, what happened? How do we pave over this beautiful state without any regard for controls? So we'll look at all levers we can pull. It starts with more local control, I believe. I think this legislature, I was there for part of it to be transparent. But since then, SB 180 has been a bill I hear about that was after I left and was turned out in 24 that has taken too much local control away from the county commission. Now that puts more pressure on your county commission to do the right thing, right, on data centers and other things. But local governments will know better than the state government what's a good spot for development and what's like, no, you can't build over there. That's a pristine area of our county that needs to be preserved. And how you do that and that balance between development and some of it's gentrification, tearing down old buildings, putting newer buildings up. There's not a lot of room in Pinellas County, but so local control is one. The conservation easements that I talked about in my opening remarks, we did over $1 billion more than any other time on the Florida Wildlife Corridor. And it's simply what that does is says, if you're in farming, you stay in farming. If you're in ranching, you stay in ranching. If it's just raw land, it stays raw land. It's purchasing further development rights that are more, have more of an impact, a negative impact on the environment. That's important not just for the wildlife. It's important for the farmers and ranchers who allows them to stay in those and not sell out to, a big developer and whatnot. So that helps slow that down also because it gives them the legal requirement not to sell at that point. So that protects that land. I don't know how much of that you have in Pinellas County, but throughout the state, this is happening at a rapid pace. So we spent a lot to try to lock up old Florida for the future generations. It's also critically important for our environment, water, our aquifer. Too much water, rain falls, it goes out into the gutters, goes out into the ocean. It's not being captured, and aquifer recharge is very, very important. So we want that corridor to allow for our, as I said before, we take care of the land takes care of us, and we're going to continue. The ocean, it's not being captured, and aquifer recharge is very, very important. So we want that corridor to allow for our, as I said before, we take care of the land takes care of us, and we're going to continue. Yes, sir. And I apologize if somebody raised their hand and I'm not seeing you. I'm not very good at this, so just come back. Yes, sir. I saw your hand go up and it caught it. Yes, sir.
Hey, Paul. My name is Amadeo. I met you in Tampa a couple of days ago. I'm a reporter for La Cita, a Spanish radio station, and I was very impressed that I was able to interview completely in Spanish.
Yes.
I don't think the voters know that that Paul here speaks fluent Spanish. I think you lived in Venezuela, that your wife was Colombian. So my question to you, Paul or Pablo, is two things. One, your general thoughts on the Hispanic culture, and second, how will the 4.8 million Hispanics that live in Florida benefit from having you as governor?
No, thank you for the opportunity to answer that. So in the military, when I was in the reserves, you do 2 weeks every year, all that. I was in much of it was in I'm thinking in Spanish, Las Americas. But I was in Chile, Venezuela, Peru, Uruguay, all these countries. So I've traveled throughout the Americas, and so I bring a different perspective. I understand the people, the culture, the problems, the opportunities there. And China, this should scare everybody in the room. Remember the Monroe Doctrine. China has stronger relationships with our partners or neighbors to the south than we do, because we've been asleep at the wheel. So Marco Rubio is a great addition to the Trump administration. He's doing a fabulous job, and he knows. And so I will be able to build those relationships for business interchange. We funded at FIU the Adam Smith Center, which is a center-right think tank, to make sure that we have people like when Milei got elected in Argentina, to bring his people up so that they can go and export freedom back to the Americas against communism, against Marxism, which is on the march. But the good news is they're losing. They lost in Colombia. They've lost in several countries now where the forces of freedom are winning now in Latin America. But China is a threat there. Second point, yes, I lived in Venezuela. It's where I learned a little Spanish, and my wife's Colombian. I've seen Chavez was in prison back then, and he was released. And so no one will fight harder against the Cuban regime, against, and in my opinion, Delcy Rodriguez, who took over for Maduro, is Maduro in a dress. And so there's still a communist regime there, and I think they're trying to wait out the president. And so we have to make sure we're fighting for freedom each and every day. And I say in Spanish, va a odiar mi voz en español y en inglés, porque voy a hablar con ellos en su propio idioma. I'm gonna speak to them in their own language, and they're gonna hate my voice in both English and Spanish, because those people that are here understand how freedom is lost, and they're looking. I promise you, they see all this democratic socialism. That is an oxymoron. There's no such thing as democrat socialism, because socialism, Marxism, always ends in poverty, in prison, and death. Freedom, it leads to human thriving. Yes, sir.
My name is Ray Alger. Interestingly enough, I went to the Donald meeting this morning.
Yeah.
up in school, and felt pretty good about it. But I'm going to tell you something. I feel great with this.
Good. Hold on, I'm going to pass the microphone in case they didn't hear that online here.
Oh, seriously, I went to the panel meeting this morning. I just want to find out more about them also. It was a great meeting. It was very done very well. It was very organized, very structured. There were no feedback whatsoever from the audience, no questions. Okay. I am very happy. First of all, I want to thank you, Commander, for your service. That really resonates with me. I'm a Vietnam veteran.
Thank you.
And, I really appreciate it. And you talk about regular plumbing. I was a plumbing contractor for many years. I was in the plumbing industry for many more years in the wholesale distribution business. And one of the biggest challenges we see in this, especially in this state, there are so many contractors being bought up by these mega contractors, most of whom are out of state. And what I've seen is just a phenomenal increase in rates all these companies are charging. I mean, it's actually sickening. I like to see people make a profit, but let them make an honest profit.
Yeah.
I'd like to close it one statement.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When it comes to candidates, I think it's very simple. I think we have three types. We have the ones that make it happen, the ones that make it happen, the people that watch it happen, and the people that wonder what's happening. I think we have in you a make it happen.
Amen. 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 Thank you, sir. That means a lot, and appreciate the support here from the kiddos. Thank you. Thank you very much. That means a lot. And to your point about private equity, it saddens me because what I see is a convergence of big government and big business that does not have the American people's interest at heart. And I'm running a Florida First campaign, which means every day I'm going to fight just as hard and work just as hard as you do to put people here first. I don't care what they're doing in Iowa. I don't care what they're doing in New Hampshire. I want to make sure we're solving problems that I'll never get credit for when it comes to the environment, when it comes to our water supply, the issues we've talked about, that you have to make a decision today that will not bear fruit for 20, 30 years. That's what you're supposed to expect out of a leader, not what can I do today to get likes and social media hits, because that's not leadership. We need people who are going to defend our people and defend our state. Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Jackie Madiak, and I have a concern about the number of foreign students that they allow in our universities as opposed to American students. I mean, I recently went through the Moffitt doctor or physician directory. I'd say it was 90% foreign and 10% American doctors, and I think that's pretty sad. I think Governor DeSantis brought the topic up a while ago, but I never heard anything further on it.
Yeah, it's a great question. And so it's some of that is going to be H-1B visas, which I've not talked about, but I oppose those. I think they've been significantly abused where American workers are trained by somebody from out of the country and then replaced by them. And so what I've said is, Governor, obviously I can't stop those. It's a federal visa for legal, people to come in and be doctors and nurses and so forth. What I can do is not, and I will not allow, it's part of our affordability plan, I will not allow for those visas for any state employment, for any state contracts. If you're going to contract with the state of Florida, you got to hire people that are American citizens and preferably Florida citizens, but not foreign workers.
I heard that President Trump said there were 100 million foreign students in our country, and I was just shocked.
And I've called specifically for areas of foreign concern, or that there's a designation. It's the ones you'd expect. Iran, Russia, China, Syria, that no students from those countries should be allowed to study here because they're not coming here. I mean, as a former intelligence officer, they're coming here to spy on us. And in fact, they have spied on us. The Chinese have, in what they called Confucius Institutes, and Speaker Sprouse, who's right from this area, did a great job of combating that and getting rid of those institutes or reforming it so they weren't centers of espionage. That's literally what they're going to do if they come over here. So I've been crystal clear. The number of professors and students from China and these other countries will be 0. Erica.
So I'm obviously fully for school choice. I love that kids are getting, and parents are getting any place that they want to take their kids to go to. And with the tax cuts, I think it's helpful for parents to be able to make that happen if they want to do private school or charter school or homeschooling. I still have a concern for kids that aren't going to do those other options, and they are going to be in public schools. And I want to make sure that that is important, as it should be for most
Right.
people, because we want all kids to be educated, right?
Right.
And so, do you still have goals for public school system?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And the answer is absolutely. I do not have an us versus them. My only us versus them, I'm for kids and great educational outcomes. We want a world-class education. I was a public school kid all the way through. My mom was a public school teacher, elementary school teacher. So I value our public schools, and you're right, as much as universal school choice and educational freedom, which I'm very much a champion and believer in, has been great and a game changer for parents. The vast majority of our students still will, and for at least as far as I can see, be in public schools. So we need more teacher pay. We need better discipline in the schools. We need more resources. And we did that when I was speaker with reading scholarships as well. That would be, the kids that are having learning losses through the summer, and both in reading and math, to have an opportunity for in-home tutoring. We'd also have a tutor in the public schools to supplement what the teacher's doing. I am not a fan of the idea that AI is going to replace teachers. And I've heard that from my opponent, Byron Donalds, and they've been talking about how wonderful this is. A human being, a teacher, can look into the eyes of a child and figure out whether they get it or not. What are we doing? I mean, we're not gonna replace a human being when it comes to teaching.
And I get the idea of what he's talking about is that each kid has their laptop and they're in math, and this kid's a high level math kid, this is a low level math kid. And so they're all in one room. They don't have to break them up based on level anymore. All kids are in the same room and they're learning their way. But like you said, it takes the personableness to teaching and learning out of and you're on a laptop all day, and it's horrible. And we've seen the research that's done with kids being at a laptop all day. It's awful.
There's a reason why the people that built Facebook and all these platforms out in California, they send their kids to schools that by design allow no technology, no digital devices. They want them, writing in cursive and then going outside and, spending time becoming resilient human beings and not, addicted to the machine, basically. And so it's very important that we can use technology in positive ways. I don't want to sound like I'm an anti-technology guy. I'm not. It can do good things for us, but we have to make sure we are always in charge. In the question of teaching, we're not going to replace teachers with AI robots or anything like that should they come tomorrow. That's a prescription for manipulation and not for success in education. Penny.
I've heard you talk about the Doge and wanting permanent Doge. Could you share with us your ideas on that?
Yeah, so Penny's question is about permanent Doge. It means what's different about what the CFO's done. He's gone into specific local communities and looked at that. I wanted it every single level, starting with the executive branch. When I get in, I wanted it full on, top to bottom, zero budgeting, zero-based budgeting review. I want zero-based regulatory review as well. Let's look at everything afresh, because I'll tell you, in politics, these things kind of accumulate. Some politician put it in for a lobbyist or back home or whatever, and it makes no sense anymore. So really making sure we're protecting health and safety and the things that government has to do in regulation, but not overspending, not duplication. So it starts with us and looking in the mirror, but it also includes our universities. There's a lot in our schools and everybody else, because there's a big bloat. If you look at education, there's a big bloat in administration. Now, some of that we drive by putting down, onerous regulations that we need to pull back and just have accountability for academics. But some of it is just a growth that's just kind of it happens in bureaucracies, I guess. And teachers are the ones that are victims of that. Their salaries don't go up, so some administrator can make 150 grand or whatever while they're making 50. And so we really need to look at that in Doge as well. So it's not just waste, fraud, and abuse. but it's also inefficiencies. Part of my $10 to $20 billion savings for the property tax idea will include the state helping. It won't just be the local saying, here, you guys figure it out. We're going to have to save. We can do this because we spend over $200 billion of taxpayer money throughout the system, and I believe we can save 5 or 10% of that. Every family and business can do that. And so that's what the DOGE really means. Also for the savings, I want to see some procurement efficiency. So the state that may buy, thousands of vehicles or big IT systems, that local governments, cities and counties, if they wish, can tie in, maybe it's paper towels and toilet paper at a lower unit cost. That's where that business experience comes in, is at a lower unit cost and scaled out, aggregated out. It's a lot of money. If you're overspending for these things by the tons, if you can save 25 cents a unit or whatever over time, that's going to add up to millions of dollars. And so that's another way to squeeze out for the taxpayers what is being wasted. And I promise you, even our wonderful state, we're the cheapest per capita state government next to New Hampshire. We're either first or second to them in terms of the lowest cost per taxpayer, the state government level. But we can do better. We can do better. I'm going to go here and then back to the back corner. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. I get a chance to go to Mar-a-Lago and talk to Trump, because I noticed that you're endorsed by the bikers for Trump. But we're all kind of distressed that Byron Donalds, who's done all these stock trades, and Trump hasn't changed his tune.
It won't help.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was up at 3 a.m. in the morning, celebrating his election, and I'd vote for him in a heartbeat tomorrow. But he's made some endorsements, like in North Carolina, Mark Robinson, and it's unvetted. He gets in there, and then all this gunk comes out. And I mentioned that there's other candidates that are hiding some stuff. And if that comes out in the general election, I think you got David Jolly 100%. And some of the stuff is known, like you mentioned, making money in office, the misvotes, those kinds of things that really are off-putting to voters who are sick and tired of, I don't care if it's Republicans or Democrats, but people who get elected and all they do is they self-promote, they get rich, they have fun, and they've forgotten about we, the people. And so that's why this election is so important in the primary. So if you've got his number, I'll call him this afternoon, go down and see him. Maybe I can convince him. I think with 10 minutes, I could convince him. So.
I was at their front door before the FBI raided his house. I was right there where the Secret Service was supposedly protecting his stuff, and then the FBI shows up and they raid and go into Melania's underwear. Right.
Yeah, that's a scary moment because the rule of law is the rule of law, and you got to call it straight, balls and strikes for everybody. You don't go crazy over something that is not necessary. You're not arresting Pablo Escobar where you have to go in guns loaded. It was ridiculous the way they handled that, for sure. Sir, thank you, sir. I think I answered your question. Sir, in the corner. Yes, sir.
Robert Dinan, thank you for being here.
Yes, sir.
What issues do you believe business owners like myself, investors, and homeowners aren't paying enough close attention to right now for our state and for their well-being?
Wow, it's a great question. I mean, there's so much that goes into business. I would say energy. We talked about energy as an input for every business. And for manufacturing, it's a significant input. So if we can bring those electric prices down, those energy prices down, that will be deflationary. It will help with inflation. It will help every business in terms of their cost. Insurance is another big one, and we're going to continue to pull levers. And I can explain to you what we're looking at on property insurance, but that would apply to commercial as well. There's a tax on insurance, homeowners insurance. We'll pull that out, at least temporarily, if not permanently. There's what's called a rapid cash buildup, that you pay 25% more than what's actuarially needed at a time that the catastrophic fund was broke. It's not broke anymore. We'll pull that out. We'll also let that catastrophic fund slide down in reinsurance to less severe storms, which will automatically have pass-through savings to businesses and consumers. So that's a big area, insurance. My property tax proposal includes a new exemption, a significant exemption of $750,000 for businesses as well. And so if you're on a triple net lease, if you own your own business, but typically if you're leasing, you're on a triple net lease, and I've done a lot of that kind of work, so I know the ins and outs of that. And that would probably relieve it. We estimate it would relieve 60 to 70% of all businesses and most small businesses that are the job creators. That's a big one. So taxes, insurance, electric rates, all those things about affordability would be big. I want to do that zero-based review of regulatory structures, because I've heard, look, Florida's more difficult for us than Georgia or these other states where we operate. We say we're the free state of Florida. We are great in so many areas, but they're outliers. And so looking at the regulatory structure, working with our businesses in a constant communication loop about what's working, what's not working. We want to make sure we're protecting lives and public safety, and buildings don't fall down and things of that nature. But my daughter's passing some stuff out to you guys. So thanks, baby. But anyway, so that's cute. Thank you, Abby. So yeah, and it goes on from there. I was a big champion of tort reform. That they got a little red bead on your forehead to come get you for anything, even if you're not negligent whatsoever. If you're negligent, you got to pay up. Straight up. And most businesses would say, look, if we made a mistake, we're going to pay for it. But we had people that were getting creamed at railroad crossings from behind. Somebody was on their phone at 60 miles an hour, and they're suing for millions of dollars. And so we made reforms where if you're the party that's at fault, you don't recover. You can't just sue for millions of dollars. And it was bankrupting many small businesses, these runaway lawsuits. And so that's another area that we can continue to look at, nuclear verdicts that can put you out of business. Bad faith lawsuits. We did reforms in that area that nobody could touch, nobody could get done. We got it done. We fought them and we won, and it was the right thing to do for Florida. And auto rates are now, and for consumers at least, commercial, I don't know why it's not, but it's not. But for residential auto rates, on average, I don't know about your individual rates, are actually going down. A buddy of mine from USAA said, hey, we're no payment for July or August, and in September, you're paying half of what you were paying before. I'm thinking, I got to go sign up for USAA. So, but anyway, some of those we're seeing some progress in those reforms. And like I said, I did record tax relief when I was speaker. So we're going to do the tax on commercial rents. We eliminated it. And I was not the only part of that. It started with my predecessors and ended with my successor to totally eliminate. It was about $2 billion coming out of the pockets of small businesses, where you paid a tax. If you leased your property or rented it, you paid a tax on that lease, which no other state in America has a tax on rents. And so we eliminated that. So there's a lot of things we've done to make Florida a really strong state for small businesses. Yes, sir. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, we'll go back. Okay, you got the mic. Okay, and we'll come back to you, sir. We'll give you the mic.
Since I've gotten to know you and your beautiful family, 6-7 months now, I've come to know you as a man of God, a man of truth, honor. You can't be bought, you can't be sold. You don't let lobbyists line your pockets because you're a heart. No, of course, it's your heart for justice. And so I want to read on. I recommend everybody get that first 100 days on the table out front. Number 2, keep Florida safe. Stop public corruption by prosecuting self-dealing by elected officials, appointees, and lobbyists. Enact the death penalty for human trafficking of minors and limit death penalty appeals to 3 years. Recall elected officials who engage in insider training. So why I feel that you'd be the best pick for our next governor, I have put on my Facebook page, which you've seen, for God has put on my heart for everybody to do their research. You can find anything online. You have a spick and span record as far back as your childhood.
Yeah.
You're the only one that has that. I believe that having the prosecuted experience that you have, you will keep, not only get the bad guys, including our elected public officials who dirty with the money, and you will keep them where they need to be, and you will put bad guys behind bars.
Amen. Thank you. Yeah, the only October surprise with me as your nominee is we're going to be electing more Republicans, not fewer. So we're going to make sure we lean in and keep this state where we're headed. The governor's done a great job, and we're going to continue and expand on that and strengthen it. Yes, sir.
On the side of Muslims. And you're seeing across the country right now, they are gaining serious footholds. New York City, for example, Minneapolis, Michigan. The big deal take place next Tuesday up in Dearborn. And they're moving into Texas. For the red state. Your position on keeping radical Muslims out of Florida. What's your position stance on
Yeah, and look, it's not based on hostility or hatred or anything like that. But if they go on video and say that we're never going to assimilate, but we're going to force you to assimilate to us, you should believe them. And that's where we are. And so the guy that Al Sayed, I think is his name, in Michigan, one of his main supporters, this guy Piker, Hassan Piker, said, we deserve 9/11. That's what we're talking about. I mean, so these are people that hate our country, and there is a nexus between the left and Islam, because they share one thing in common: they want to destroy America. And so does that mean there's not anybody out there that's a good neighbor? No, I'm not saying that as an individual, that there's not any individual people who claim to be Muslims that are not good neighbors. But what I am saying is, as an ideology, what's different about Christianity, Judaism, and other faiths, Hinduism, is that Islam makes very significant demands on secular society. And it has a totalitarian, it's very similar to communism in that it has a complete demands across all secular institutions that none of those other faiths make. And for that reason, by definition, it cannot be compatible with our way of life, with our American Republic, our Constitution. It just can't. That's not. You're not being true to your faith in that case if you're Muslim to allow for free speech, for these types of things that don't bow the knee to what Islam dictates. And so, to your question, I did a press conference in Tampa, but I've called for the federal government to stop immigration from those countries immediately. I believe, should denaturalize and deport those in Minnesota and other people that commit crimes and fraud. They should be gone. And so, and then no money for educational dollars that teach Sharia law, no slaughterhouses, no enclaves. We're going to fight Karen Muslim Brotherhood. There's an office right here in Tampa. And designate them, as the governor did, a terrorist organization. They said, well, we're not a terrorist organization, but all their leadership happen to have terrorist ties. So if it walks like a duck, it is. And so we're going to be very steely-eyed. No other candidate in this race, when you're asking about differences between me, they'll say, well, I don't like Sharia law. I don't know if they understand. I'm talking about something bigger than that. I'm just saying it's better for us, and I absolutely think that the United States should be friends with nations in the Middle East that are Muslim nations. They want to be friends with us, right? No problem. But where there's a mixing over 1,000 years of history everywhere shows that it always leads to conflict, division, and violence, always. And we don't want to be in a position where it turns to violence. We just need to say stop, and we can be friends abroad, but not here, because there's no mixing when you're telling us repeatedly that you're going to force us by the sword or by the end of a gun barrel to assimilate to your ideology. That's not going to work.
We're going to take one more question from the audience and one online. So I'm going to ask the online question real quick, and then we'll pick one last person from the audience. Speaker, we have a question regarding hurricane preparedness and what you will do as governor. Will you follow in Governor DeSantis' footsteps on hurricane preparedness?
Yeah, I would be the third naval officer. Nothing against the Army and all my other brothers and sisters in the other branches, but I'll be the third officer, Rick Scott and DeSantis. And I think why that's important is in the military, we drill. So when something happens, it's muscle movement. You don't think about it. You just know at general quarters where you have to be, what you have to wear. You're half asleep, but you just can do it in your sleep because you've trained so much. That's the kind of emergency management I want to have, and it will be the first thing in transition after the November election until January inaugural, as we wrap up that hurricane season, to get with our folks, not just on hurricanes, but everything, every black swan event like COVID. Nobody would have thought of COVID, and we got caught a little flat-footed. There weren't masks, and nothing was stored. We didn't have this and that stored to make sure we're ready for anything: nuclear attack, terrorist attack, any kind of mass casualty, anything. And we're running through the paces to know that we're ready. And I think the governor and has done a fantastic job there, and I'll continue down that same path as a former military guy.
So we have one question from the audience. She didn't want to take the microphone, but she's just asking, what can these folks do to help spread your message?
Well, we've got 72. We don't have a lot of time left, but this election, let me tell you, is wide open. So many people I talk to, I don't know who to vote for. I know, and people say I know who I'm not going to vote for, but they're looking to see a couple of things. Who's prepared? And I mentioned battle testing. Who can actually show up and get the job done? Everybody's I'm going to make your wildest dreams come true, but can they actually do it, and will they do it? Who's got the vision, and who's got leader like DeSantis it's closest to? And I told you what the governor said recently is share that message. Share that message with your friends, push out to your social media networks, emails, churches, synagogues, wherever you have influence. And everybody in this room has a significant sphere of influence to go and say, look, I saw this guy, and if they didn't come today, they can go and see there's going to be recorded and it'll be available online. You can watch it. You can send clips of it, however you want to do it, to let them know this election is super duper important. And I had one person that came up and said, so what brought you here? She said, well, I've been doing my research, and you're really the only one that's like truly qualified to take over for DeSantis. That's how important this election is. And so, and if you have, as we're hitting the last leg, if you have some video, some topic you want us to reach out on, just hit us up on one of the platforms and we'll do something. My cousin asked me to do something on school choice, on educational freedom for homeschoolers. Somebody else asked me to do a video in Spanish, to speak about what I addressed to you about how I think we're going to have great relationships and claw that control from China back and help put those countries in the freedom category and adhere to the Monroe Doctrine, which is saying we're not going to let enemies at our doorstep. We're not going to let communist Cuba and communist Venezuela and communist Brazil and all these countries, work against us. We're going to have friends there. That protects all of our freedom. So whatever the issue is and whatever your sphere is, if it's a homeschool network, share with that network. If it's a pro-life network, if it's a business network, if it's an environmental network, I will just tell you, if you look at the record of receipts on what we accomplished on any of those topics, nobody's going to come close. And just give them that information as best you can. And if you want to come out and wave signs, we'll have some of that going on in Pinellas County, and vote, obviously vote. But this race is very fluid, very much up in the air, and we just don't want to make a mistake, because I can just tell you, leadership is everything. The last 2 years, my successor has been fighting nonstop with the governor. And, we missed a lot of opportunities on affordability. We missed opportunities on health freedom, on AI Bill of Rights. And I just called for them. Since he's leaving, there's a unique vacancy where the Speaker Pro Tem is actually that you appoint as Speaker is going to come in as Speaker to see if they'll do a special session with the Senate and deliver those wins for Floridians, because I've been disappointed these last 2 years have been squandered, in my opinion.
Ryan Donald came to our door, and I said, he's funded by the big tech pros, so
Yeah.
it was a no. I had no idea who to vote for. I wasn't going to vote. He got a text, and we looked into you, and I came. And I wish I knew about you 2 weeks ago, because I was at the big conference in Chattanooga, 76 losses.
Yeah.
All kind of people did in Florida.
You got an email list?
I don't, but I can go into I subscribe to the forum and put some stuff up about you. I'll do that today.
And people asked me a question last night, because we're doing these Facebook Lives every night. So you can think of a question you want to jump on tomorrow or the next day. What about your Lieutenant Governor? I said, well, I've thought about people. I'm not going to announce any names, but I want 3 things. I want integrity, I want principles, and I want courage. And if you don't meet all 3 of those, you're not going to be my Lieutenant Governor. You've got to have those things. And I would just say that, just put the word out that you got somebody that is going to be as close to the great governor we've had, and we can win this race. Absolutely. I think we have momentum. If you've ever seen a horse race. The what?
He's probably the most accurate pollster in the Trump era. He goes to the White House frequently, and he says health freedom, food freedom, and financial freedom are big, and they're big with millennials, Gen Z, Gen Xers, not just boomers. They're very big issues.
So I would say to your network there, we have our Health, Freedom, and Wellness Initiative on our voterenner.com. Pass that along and say, this is what this guy will do. As I said, we've been endorsed by Stand for Health Freedom. Another group this morning, endorsed us in the health freedom world. We are the health freedom candidate, for sure.
Yeah, because if the Republicans don't
Yeah, that's right. It'll be, that's a COVID thing. We're not going to do that. And so we're going to keep rolling, or are we going to go off camera? Or I'll stay and take questions. So I don't mind taking as many questions. We don't curate questions here, by the way. So yeah, everything, you go to an issues tab and you can find various things we've proposed, health freedom, affordability, it's all there. We've covered some of it, but there's a lot of it. We'll be very, very focused on big, robust, complete policy. And again, I'm the guy that has passed those things when people said you're never going to beat those guys, those special interests, to do what's right for Florida. We have and we will.
I'd like to share the video from today.
Go on voterenner.com, and I think you can just click on it and share it. It's also on YouTube. If you just put Paul Renner intro video, I think it'll be on there, and you can, yeah, the one you watched before we started. Oh, yeah. It'll be on Joseph. It'll be on Facebook, X,
Instagram, all those platforms.
This was great.
Thank you very much. Yeah, share with your friends. Okay, I got to call my cousin since he's got his hand up. Yes, sir. One more question.
I've been posting stuff all while. Nothing is going to be better than those of you that have the same convictions I do about Paul, to call 10 or 20 people that you think have any confidence in your opinion. Because as I've done that with I don't know how many people, I've had a whole bunch of times, so glad you called, I really haven't paid attention. And these same people are friends on Facebook, they could have seen 100 posts. But if you really believe in them, make some calls.
Everyone
Guys, thank you. Those watching online, thank you. Everybody, the media here, thank you guys for coming out. Everybody that came, God bless you. Have a great day.
Okay, well, that was Republican candidate Paul Renner up in Palm Coast, who was doing a live town hall. He's got several more of those planned. I will keep streaming them. Recently, Governor Ron DeSantis just yesterday retweeted Paul with a quote tweet regarding the fact that Paul is asking for the legislature to get back into a special session to pass the medical freedom bill that needs to be done, because they didn't get that business finished under Speaker Perez, who really let the Florida team down, let you all down in not getting that medical freedom bill passed. Paul Renner has gotten the Stand for Health Freedom, which is a very, very big MAHA group here in Florida. He has their full endorsement, full-throated endorsement, in fact. You've seen on Paul Renner's X page and Facebook page, medical freedom advocates like Bailey Kukendall and Valera McBride stepping up, big MAHA folks that are connected back to Bobby Kennedy Jr., giving full-throated endorsements for Paul Renner. I, of course, have endorsed him for months now. Many great people coming out for Paul. The Byron Donalds campaign has lost any energy. They're being exposed left and right. If you go to byrondonaldsfacts.org, you will see for yourself that, frankly, Byron Donalds is not the best candidate. He has a lot of baggage with him. His wife has a lot of baggage with her, millions of dollars of state money that she's laundered through her nonprofit and through various LLCs paid through her nonprofit. And, of course, the discovery of Panamanian bank accounts where her father lives with over $20 million in there. Where did that come from? And, of course, Byron Donalds not reporting stock trades in a timely fashion, missing 161 votes. Yeah, some of the time campaigning for Trump, but who does he work for? Us or for Trump? He works for us. So, President Trump, if you need a campaign surrogate, you're going to have to find other people, because you're taking the guy that represents us on the trail. And that's not fair. And Byron Donalds should have said no to that. Instead, he has sucked up to the globalist establishment, and he has sold himself out to the tune of $100 million in order to make sure that the peninsula of Florida is liquidated for sale to the highest bidders and turned into a hyperscale AI data center corridor, which will have negative and deleterious impacts on our aquifers. As Paul Renner very articulately explained, our aquifers are all connected. So while we have at least 27 counties which have put a statewide ban up on aquifers, unfortunately, the state is going to have to step in, because the aquifers are all connected. And if people, until we know what's going on with these hyperscale data centers, till we have real empirical data that'll disprove they're going to impact our environment in any way, shape, or form, despite the experts that have explained, including water problems, we also have noise problems. And I'm not talking about audible noise. I'm actually talking about the tonal noise you can't hear that impacts the reproductive cycle of our agricultural livestock. It disrupts our sleep patterns, et cetera. So this is all stuff that we need to get a handle on. And of course, Catherine Austin Fitts has been very clear about the financial impacts in terms of sovereignty, meaning what we see coming down the pike with the Genius Act already passed, Clarity Act in the pipeline. This is all revolving around financial control. And just like the Chinese system of environmental social governance, our financial system is directly connected to the hyperscale data system. It's not about faster ChatGPT, Claude, or Grok. It's all about controlling your financial future. And as we move towards digital money, even though the president is not calling it CBDC, it is in fact completely another fiat put on the blockchain. No longer will you have paper dollars, you'll have digitized dollars, stable coins, all on the blockchain, and all being routed through the existing infrastructure, including the IRS reporting data. And if they don't like what you're doing, they can shut you down. Look, they were able to take $350+ billion in Bitcoin from Iran and move it right through into the treasury, confiscate it. So if you think that this president won't do that, the next one most definitely will, because they'll have access to your wallet, even if it's off grid, if you have a wallet that's not connected. So this is not anything we want to look forward to. We really need to push back. Paul Renner is consulting with Catherine Austin Fitts on this. And Catherine Austin Fitts is, if you don't know who she is, go to SolariReport.com, SOLARI, Solari Report. Read up on her. She is one of the world's leading economists in terms of how all this is working. This has been her business for years. She used to work on Wall Street. She used to work on the government. She worked under the Bush administration, and she is spewing the truth. So I'm really excited about this Tuesday. Paul Renner is really picking up steam. He is the Golden Tempo. If you guys saw the Kentucky Derby this year, the horse that was at the back of the pack won the race. And Paul Renner started out at the back of the pack, and he has been heavily suppressed and censored on social media. It's been remarkable to see what's happened to my ex profile and my Facebook pages just because they say Paul Renner. I've seen some crazy things from other candidates come out and say and do, including Jay Collins, who lied to Julie Jenkins, who is the heiress for Publix. He told her that he was anti-AI data centers when in fact he is pro-AI data centers and has done as much as draft a Senate bill last year to give tax incentives to AI data centers to build in Florida. So for him to lie to a candidate when he was on fumes for money in order to acquire a $5 million donation to keep his campaign alive tells you all you need to know about that candidate, including the scandal of Burnergate. If you didn't hear anything about Burnergate, just type in hashtag Burnergate into X, and you'll see a bunch of videos pop up about Jay's wife, Layla, who got called out by Uthmeyer and other members of the DeSantis team for basically putting up, burner accounts to smear Governor Ron DeSantis because they were dissatisfied. Meanwhile, DeSantis appointed Jay and his wife to various positions in the government of Florida. I find that really unbelievable that they would be so disrespectful to the man that biting the hand, the man that feeds them. Of course, Governor DeSantis has not endorsed Jay at all, but he's spoken very highly of Paul Renner as of late. And if you go to the governor's page, you'll see he's retweeted Paul recently with respect to the medical bill of freedom and getting that done. So I think that's pretty exciting. You've seen a couple of good things DeSantis has said as of late about Paul Renner, including the fact he clarified his statement when he said in 2025 that Renner was ill-advised to run. He was referencing name recognition. What he did say was he thought Paul Renner would be a really good governor. So, between that and the recent retweets yesterday, I think you're starting to see the trend where it's going. And I think we should all get our ducks in a row, protect our sovereignty, protect Florida, put Florida first. Let's make Florida the shiniest city on the hill in the United States of America. We were during COVID, and we can be again, particularly if we have Paul Renner as governor. I think what you heard today was what you see is what you get. Not a glitzy guy. He's here to serve. He was drafted by some people in North Florida that wanted to see him run against Byron Donalds. He wasn't planning on it, but he finally acquiesced and said, okay, I'll serve one more time. I'll go in. I have no further public aspirations. He got out of public office in 24, but he's back in the race now in 26 to finish the job. He'll term out after 8 years, just like DeSantis did, and he wants to go back to private life. This is his civic duty. This is his public duty, and this is mine. This is what I do. Guys, I hope you have a great Saturday. Thanks for being here with me today. It is 12:37. I'm going to sign off, and I'm going to try and have a little me time and a little fun time with my family for a few hours because we're going to be hitting it again tomorrow and Monday with more lives from Paul. Share this everywhere. Appreciate you. Have a great, great afternoon.